This is a really important public service announcement, okay? If you're a parent with your children in public schools, either remove your children from public schools or become an activist who focuses on the cleaning up of the curriculum and the removing of the scourge of scum who are infiltrating the educational system so that they can predate on your children and so that they can groom your children and so that they can do it legally. It's come to my attention via a channel, Traces of Nuts, via a panel member on that channel, Finn Budgeon. It's come to my attention that in Australia, in Victorian Parliament recently, a member of Parliament made a speech about something that happened within the family of one of his constituents. A constituent wrote a letter to his MP to advise what happened at the constituent's daughter's school. And the constituent provided some proof, being a worksheet sent home with the daughter from school. So this daughter is 10 years old. She's in primary school, okay? She's not a teenager. She's not a teenager who you might reasonably expect to be taught a modicum of information about the human body, about female and male biology, basic facts of life. She's a 10-year-old. She's basically a child. And any 10-year-old could be at any level, couldn't they? Some are more sophisticated than others, some are more curious than others, some are more mature than others. It's up to parents to decide at what level their 10-year-old child is and how much they talk to them about biology, about human relationships and things like that. Her mother may have found it necessary to talk about menstruation, for example. I think it's important that children know just a little as they grow in a way that they can process and understand. There's no need to corrupt children before they're ready for certain knowledge, okay? So what was on this worksheet? Well, this worksheet was homework that a 10-year-old's been given from a teacher, and on it she's told, go home and discuss with your father his erections and his ejaculation. So when the appalled, frightened, concerned, horrified parent saw this worksheet, she contacted the school and she was subsequently told, well, it's part of the curriculum. This is just part of our curriculum. Who is aware what's being taught in your children's schools? Do you pay attention? Do you care? Do you think that somebody such as myself, who takes great offence to this, who is absolutely incensed, who can see how horrific this is, can see how predatory this is, can see how abusive this is, can see that this child is being groomed? If you think for 1 second that I am upset because I am homophobic or even transphobic or whatever else, then you are part of the problem. Your weak liberal ways where you're pushing gender and sexual ideologies into realms where it doesn't need to be. You've got no right to interfere with nuclear families, how they are raising their children, how they're educating their children on things outside of school curriculums, and, excuse me, and you don't dictate that children, primary schoolers, kindergarteners, I mean, doesn't this just reflect what's happening in America and Florida, for example, with some Disney educational institutional staffers heartbroken, upset, appalled that they can't act in a predatory manner legally toward children. They're not allowed to teach gender identity and sexual orientation to kindergartners. If this doesn't trouble you, you're part of the problem. You're either checked out, you're a predator yourself, you're weak, or you're lazy, or maybe you're just naive. You know, you could have been swept along with these movements thinking that you would be open-minded. You don't want to be seen to be judgy, and you want to move with the times, and you want your children to grow up knowing it's okay, it's okay. It's okay to be gay. Of course, it's fucking okay to be gay. It's okay what people want to do with their bodies. You know, no one can judge anyone else's sexuality and what they're wanting to do with their bodies. Everyone's morality is a little bit different, but we need to maintain basic human values here. And that is that mentally ill people and dangerous people, and when I say mentally ill, I know that will get me in a lot of trouble. Mentally ill people have a place in society. It's you, it's me, it's many people, isn't it? And they need to live their lives, work, have families, have hobbies, have goals to attain, and have visions for their future, and they need to be supported with whatever they're living with. I'm talking, I guess, more about sick, perverted people who see your children as their resources. They see your children as fodder, as their playthings. They want to corrupt young minds. They want to introduce ideas to children before children, ideas that some people never need to come across to live a normal, happy, productive, healthy life, okay? But they want to be able to talk about their genitals with your child. They want your child to talk about their genitals with them, okay? Think about this. They should be there to educate your children in such a way as they can understand a little bit about society, friendships, communications, and grow in skills whereby they can discover their vocational gifts or desires and, you know, be prepared in the world, right? That's what school is for. To make, you know, connections that can be lifelong, you know, friendships, for example. So then schools aren't there. Their role isn't, you know, you should be really paying attention. It's not to teach them, go, oh, sometimes I can be a woman. My name is Miss Barlow. You know, and this is John Smith, who exposes his stockinged legs and his underwear with clear bulge to your 3-year-old whilst he's reading a story. He wants it in the curriculum where that story might be talking about drag queens, transsexuals, not talking about, you know, a little bird learning to fly, a hungry caterpillar, possum magic, you know. They want to destroy your child's chance to develop their own id, their own psyche, their own emotional life, their own sexuality. Women and men, they want your children to take on their sexuality. And they're getting in there, and it's younger and younger and younger ages that they are getting their sick fingers on. And they're very tricksy about it. They will gaslight you into making you feel and think that perhaps you are small-minded, that you are a bigot, that you are homophobic, hateful, that you're a fascist, a Marxist, a Nazi, whatever. You know, this is what I get called. I said an N-word recently, quoting someone else who I find quite despicable, and and someone told me I was despicable, but then called me an N-word themselves, which was that I was a Nazi, right? So, but you know, they are adept at manipulating people into feeling like they can be progressive and get a following and be of the people for the people. They trick people in organizations and in schools and things into doing this demonic work for them, right? By, you know, creating a fear of not being wholly incorporated, of being exclusionary, of all of these things, right? That's what they're doing. And this little minority, which is like the squeaky wheel, it gets the oil, doesn't it? And they are very loud, and they are very annoying, and they scream and yell and they whine, and they cry that they are the victims, and they are the predators. And there are some good people that get sucked in along with them. Maybe people just like, you know, maybe a lesbian mother, for example, who doesn't want their child to feel like they're different because they're being brought up in a home with two women. So they think, oh, look, this is on the surface, you know, they're just thinking very surfacely, on the surface. Oh, that'd be a lovely idea if education in schools, when it comes time for that part of the curriculum where children learn about the birds and the bees in a formal way, in a biological way it should be, it would be kind of nice to see that lesbian couples, gay couples might be represented, because that's our household. Well, no, that's up to you. That's up to you just to ensure that your child in any situation, in any household, has self-esteem and feels included and loved. Whatever it takes for you to do that, well, you do that. It doesn't have a place in school when you're learning about male and female gender. You know, listen very carefully. And if you're talking to somebody that refuses to describe what a woman is as an adult female human, you're talking to someone that is going to cause huge problems. They are setting up the earth's children to have zero rights, to not develop any sexuality of their own. You know, influence is everything when children, you know, give me the child at 7, I'll show you the man. They want to get in there at this very, very important time. They want to corrupt children at an age so that who they become has been dependent on those exposures, on those teachings, on those experiences. And and it's wrong, it's sick. The teacher, whomever has introduced this into the school in the first place, oh, they're probably excited, I'm going to be a teacher and I'm just going to teach you all about pronouns and, you know, and it's all about them. This is just complete narcissistic behavior. It's vacuous, but it's dangerous. And your children don't go to school to be exposed to predators and to be exposed to these traumas. They go there at 10 years old to be learning basic mathematics, social science, economics, home economics maybe. You know, where is your children going to play sports, to learn an overview of science before they go on to break into chemistry, biology, physics. You know, they might be getting some sort of religious education. They might be learning about basic geography. They're doing assignments where they make dioramas. They're learning how to give speeches in front of people. They might be in a choir. They could be becoming interested in performing on stage or learning musical instruments. You know, they're not there to be told by a teacher, take this worksheet home and ask your father about his penis, about how his penis operates. You should be terrified and you should be angry, and it's got to stop. Do you realize how dangerous this is, how close we are to this tipping point, right? This can't become legislation across the board. This can't become the law that teachers can talk to minor children in such a way. So where does this go, right? You know, this is beyond being just a safe space for children so that they're not bullied if they don't want to play sport. That doesn't mean, if a boy doesn't want to play sport, it doesn't mean that he wants to be a girl. It might mean he'd rather play the flute. It might mean he just doesn't like running around. Who gives a shit, okay? But he's not there to then be groomed by a predatory teacher, this terrifyingly left liberal, this screaming SJW. It doesn't mean that he's there to have someone in his ear saying, oh, so you don't like sport? I didn't like sport either. Tell you what I did like. How do you feel about your genitals, Jimmy? How do you feel? Yes, I wasn't comfortable with my genitals either. Yes. Now, you can tell your mummy that you don't like them. You know, there is something you can do. Wouldn't it be easier if you didn't have to think about your genitals? You know, there's all sorts of reasons why children don't want to play sport. It shouldn't open up the doorway for that sort of conversation. We need to be there to support people that have gender dysphoria, that have body dysmorphia, that have all sorts of woes and worries, feeling like an outsider, feeling different. It shouldn't define them. It shouldn't define what we do with them, what we teach them. Children need time throughout all periods of their childhood to try things on and cast them off, to understand for themselves what not liking sports means, to understand for themselves what turns them on and what doesn't. Not to be exposed to things that set in motion a development of a type of sexuality or anything that they may otherwise never have been interested in or experienced, right? not saying this very well. It's nasty, it's predatory, it's grooming, it should be legal. I don't know how that's what I was saying, wasn't it? I don't know how this has come about in this school in Victoria in Australia, who introduces this idea first, but you know, some teacher has, you know, it's gotten through the committees, it's gotten through the meetings, and it's somehow thought of as a good idea by people who don't really take the thought process about it that little step further, or to really look at what might be behind it. The person putting forth these ideas might seem utterly genuine and really just open-minded. Well, they can do that in their own lives. They can be however they want in their own personal life, and it's not to be phobic anything. You know, the gender identity politics now are what are actually shutting down what would have been the greatest advocates for just everyone being themselves and for acceptance. You know, the open-minded people, right? Because this percentage are taking it so far and it's just being accepted. I mean, we hear this all the time, don't we? Many things happen like this. And then just suddenly it's part of your way of life. Parents, you do not want this as part of your children's lives, your lives. You don't want their futures to be going into a school where as a 5, 7, 10-year-old, they are told as homework, go home and talk to, I mean, maybe they don't even have a father in the home, but go home and talk to your father about his erection and his ejaculation. It's entirely inappropriate. It's never going to be okay, right, in any context. It'll never be okay for a 16-year-old to be told to go home and do that as homework. There can be sex education in schools. This is a good thing, but usually it works well when it's involving the parents, and it's involving the parents and the children all together. The parents know what's being said, and the children know that the parents know, and the children can therefore feel like they've got an avenue of opportunity. You know, there's that door is opened up to a conversation with their parents. They can see that their parents aren't scared of the questions. They aren't going to, you know, they're not embarrassed. You know, and children can ask some very important questions, and every household can have those conversations. Okay, you should be sickened, you should be frightened, and most of all, you should be angry, and you should be activated. You need to stop it. Is this a world you want to live in? Is this where you want your children to be? This world right now that contains this? Is this their experience? This is the tip of the iceberg. It's the tip of the iceberg, okay? People know they slip this little thing in, and then the next, and then the next, okay? The teacher, if it's just part of like his or her classroom curriculum, holy shit, this person needs to be investigated. They need to be sacked, and they need to be investigated. But just, you know, watch what happens. You know, you try and communicate about these things, and you are called pretty much the opposite of what you are, right? A bigot, etc. You know, it's these open-minded people that have experience of the world, that have maybe got a very broad experience of types of people in the world, that can actually see what lines are being crossed and where things tip into actual, tip beyond acceptance, people being true to themselves, people who are not hurting others with their lifestyle, and can see where the lines are being crossed. Okay, I am not a homophobe, I'm not a transphobe, I just resent the children of this earth being corrupted, abused, predated and groomed, while you are sent, you know, in this institution that you're sending them off to with trust and good faith. And if you're a parent that agrees with this kind of tripe, you're a dangerous person too.